Alright, so here we go. We have phase 1 of my DCEU. When I was making this initial concept way back when, I wasn't sure how to have it begin. I could go the Marvel route and have a bunch of origin stories for characters to have them eventually meet up in a team film. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to prove that didn't need to be the be-all and end-all for team films. I also considered doing the reverse and what the plan for Justice League Mortal was going to be after that film. Have a bunch of origin stories after the big team film to further develop the characters. But, as much as I liked that idea, I didn't want to do that either. But then, I remembered an article that came out in between 2013 and 2016 detailing the quote-unquote original plan from DC before heading into this new direction from Russell Crowe. He claimed that DC planned a Superman trilogy before establishing other heroes, but then decided to do Snyder's pitch for a Batman vs. Superman film. So I decided to use that. So here is phase 1. The first film shall obviously be Man of Steel. It will be very similar but also very different to the final product. The biggest change I'm making is the writer and director. Out is David S. Goyer and Zack Snyder. I don't really hate Zack Snyder, but his views of Superman are just plain and simply wrong. For the most part. There are grains of greatness in there, like the flying scene, but overall, it's drab and dull to look at and barely resembles Superman. So, the person I would want to bring in to give us the best modern Superman movie we could possibly ask for, and that is Brad Bird. The man already created the greatest Superman movie of all time. Why not bring him on to do it again, with the actual character? The plot would mainly be pretty similar to what we got. It would be an origin story for Superman before he really became Superman, with him fighting General Zod. There would be less over-the-top action, less Jesus imagery, less attempts at trying to be profound, just a simple modern Superman story before he really becomes Superman. Plus, in this world, Man of Steel was pretty much made instead of Green Lantern, so the extended universe has more time to grow and whatnot. Next is Man of Steel 2, Enter the Night. This was the fake leak title when there was a rumor going around that BVS was going to be split into 2 movies. First part was going to be Enter the Night, and the second part was going to be Dawn of Justice, but that turned out to be false. However, I like the subtitle Enter the Night though. It sounds cooler than Dawn of Justice, and it makes sense because now we are inserting Batman into this universe. So now, the plot. In this universe, we have a Lex Luthor that hasn't done anything bad in the public eye yet. Before Superman, he was just an egotistical genius billionaire with possible shady business dealings. Then Superman enters the picture. With this version of Lex, I don't want to bring religion into it for obvious reasons. Put it simply, I'm making Batman's distrust towards Superman and putting them into Lex. He sees Superman as a threat to humanity and wants to kill him before he could kill anyone else. Throughout the movie, Kal realizes that, unlike General Zod, he can't just fight him and be done with it. Lex is a powerful figure and he can't touch him. As well as the fact that Lex is always 5 steps ahead of him. General Zod was smart for a militaristic warrior, but Lex is a strategist, an inventor, a scientist, and a billion other things that make him one of the smartest people in the universe. But also with that, no overly complicated plot either that makes next to no sense in having his personality be like the Riddler. He'll be stoic, stern, and not be overly emotional. So with all of that, it would make sense that Batman, Bruce Wayne, another genius billionaire who isn't overly emotional, would team up with Superman to fight him. Now, it's not going to be the polar opposite of BVS where they're buddy-buddy either. Batman still has that distrust towards Superman, and Superman doesn't like his more violent bouts of justice, learning from the last film that he doesn't want to be a violent lunatic like Zod. So there's some friction there, but they put aside their differences to stop Luthor, who Batman has always distrusted because, well, he's Batman. He distrusts everyone. I like the veteran angle as well. He's not going to be super old, just old enough to make him a bit more experienced. It would be more along the lines of a mystery noir thriller than the previous film. With this, if I were to get anyone to write and direct, I would want Guillermo del Toro. I think his balance of realistic and fantastical would work exceptionally well for something like this. Next up is Man of Steel 3. I originally had a subtitle for this, but it kind of sounded shitty, and I couldn't think of another one, so it's just Man of Steel 3 now. If you can think of a good subtitle after hearing the pitch, be sure to leave it in the comments. So, with this one, I would introduce Wonder Woman into this universe. Now, similar to the last film, I wanted a villain that would be sort of a mirror to the character we were introducing. Well, maybe not a mirror, but serve a purpose to bring in Wonder Woman. I thought of all the interesting villains that could work, and I did focus on one, Eclipso. The main reason I want to bring Eclipso in is because, as I said, you could have that connection with Wonder Woman as a being she fought before, or something very similar, as well as the fact that it would showcase Superman's vulnerability to magic, something that is rarely touched upon in these movies. It would show off the more magical side to this universe. Each film in the Man of Steel trilogy would show off a certain side of the DCEU. First one is obviously the cosmic side, with Superman being an alien and introducing a cosmic villain. Then the sequel would show off the more human side with Batman and Lex Luthor. Then this film would show off the magical and mythical side with Wonder Woman and Eclipso, as well as introducing another character to the DC mythos, the Spectre, as Eclipso used to be the angel of vengeance but became evil. So the plot. Kal is helping stop various threats all over Metropolis, and soon he gets the attention of Eclipso. He gets possessed by him and starts destroying Metropolis, which gets the attention of Wonder Woman, who had been trying to stop Eclipso before he really did anything. She eventually manages to stop him and extracts him from Superman's body. They eventually team up and have to figure out a way to stop it, while Eclipso tries to possess various other people to stop them. It's a very simple plot and not as intricate as the previous film, but as I said, it introduces that mythical side rather well. If I could get anyone to write and direct, it would be Julie Taymor with Alan Heinberg writing. She was one of the directors considered for Wonder Woman before Patty Jenkins was hired to direct. She's done some pretty well-regarded films, so I thought that she could work for this kind of film, as I wanted to save Jenkins for Wonder Woman's solo venture. Next up is Justice League. This would be very different from the final product. I think Snyder kind of blew his load by including the New Gods in the very first Justice League movie. I think a much simpler approach with the Legion of Doom would be much more interesting. The lineup, I think, should be somewhat similar to Nando's Legion in his Justice League rewrite. It would be Lex Luthor, Bane, Gorilla Grodd, Giganta, Amon Amak, and the Shark. What I wanted to do was have each character have their counterpart for the Legion. With this, I think you can assume who I picked for who. Furthering this, my Justice League would be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter. I'm not including Green Lantern for two reasons, the first being that Green Lantern is a bit too cosmic for such an earthly threat. Martian Manhunter you can get away with because he's trapped on Earth, so it makes sense. The second reason I'll get into much later, like in another video later. I also wanted to have the Legion to be split into two groups, kind of. The first being the geniuses, Lex, Bane, and Grodd, and the muscle, Giganta, Amok, and the Shark. The geniuses would formulate the plan, strategy, and that sort of thing, and then the second group would be pawns, pretty much, taking the fall if things go south and protect the geniuses. Since the Legion of Doom isn't really a comic book group, there aren't really a lot of stories regarding the Legion except for the stuff in Rebirth. Plus, I don't want a simple taking over the world scenario because that would be rather one-dimensional and boring. So here's a vague idea of the plot. Lex Luthor is arguably the smartest person in the DC universe that isn't omnipotent, and he hates Superman with a burning passion. He wants to prove that Superman is a threat and that he is the hero. So I imagine it like this. Lex Luthor is on probation after the events of Man of Steel 2. He's been doing his time but is still on house arrest, hence why he can't really do anything outside of his penthouse. So in order to destroy Superman and the public's faith in him, he intends to find two other great minds, Gorilla Grodd and Bane, one telepathic and the other an exemplary strategist, as well as some low-level villains for some muscle. At around the same time, a ship crashes to Earth and we find Amon Amak. Lex decides to enlist him as well and use him as a guinea pig for what they're doing. What they're doing is three separate parts of a plan. Make an evil Superman, use a telepathic virus to have the public turn against him, and have any existing metahumans be incapacitated. It would pretty much be through this that Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman team up for the first time, as well as teaming up with Barry Allen, Arthur Curry, and John Jones. Plus, it would introduce Bizarro as a villain, so that could be interesting. It's pretty basic, but I think it would be a good outing for the first Justice League film. If I could get anyone to write and direct, it would definitely be George Miller. His vision for Justice League Mortal was fantastic, and he would do a Justice League film, for lack of a better word, justice. Now that we're done with films, I wanted to get to the TV shows. Now, unlike the Arrowverse, these shows will be connected to the DCEU and be canon on the same Earth, the whole 9 yards. I wanted the DCEU to really be an extended universe, so have that bleed into other media outside of film. The 2 shows starting in Phase 1 will be Green Lantern Corps and Dr. Fate. I think you might know where I'm going with this. They're shows that expand the 2 other big parts of the DC universe, cosmic and magic. We got a slight taste of those in Man of Steel and Man of Steel 3, but I wanted to really flesh them out in series. Green Lantern Corps in my original DCEU Redux was a movie set right before the events of Justice League 2, and it would have focused on Hal and John and them stopping Atrocitus and the Red Lantern Corps, but also have Hal dealing with not being on Earth for so many years, John being a new recruit, as well as other various subplots. I realized when really looking at it that there was kind of too much to put into a film, so I opted for a TV series. This series would be entirely cosmic, and many Green Lantern villains would appear, like classic villains like the Sinestro Corps, as well as other villains like Evil Star, Krona, and others. The series would run from 2016, in between Man of Steel 3 and Justice League, to 2021, and there's a reason for that I will get to in the Phase 2 video, and connects to the reason why Green Lantern isn't in Justice League. I imagine the villains that would be from season to season are Krona for Season 1, the Controllers for Season 2, the Red Lantern Corps for Season 3, Evil Star for Season 4, and the Sinestro Corps for Season 5. Many known villains like Fatality, Amon Sur, Legion, Star Sapphire, and the Manhunters would also show up for smaller offshoot episodes from the main storyline. I would want this to be on HBO and have 8 episodes per season. Due to the fact it would be very effects heavy, I would want one of the higher cable networks to produce it so it doesn't suffer from mediocre effects, as well as having a smaller number of episodes so you don't stretch out the budget so far. You could showcase a lot of great villains as well as more characters than just Hal. Jon Stewart would be a major part of the show, and you could introduce more Lanterns of not just Earth, but of other alien characters as well. If I could have anyone be the showrunner, it would be 2 people actually. Jeff Johns for obvious reasons, and Ronald D. Moore. Considering his background is in Star Trek, the cosmic nature of Green Lantern would be good. Now there is Dr. Fate. With this, I wanted to showcase not just the supernatural side, but introduce another big part of the DC universe with the Justice Society. In this show, it would take place in present day, and the wearer of the helmet would be Kent V. Nelson, Kent Nelson's grandnephew. It would have that further connection to the past, and it would kind of be similar to what Stargirl is doing in terms of bringing back the Justice Society in a new day and age, but not as heavily showcased. It would mainly focus on Dr. Fate and the adventures he has. Similar to Green Lantern Corps, I did have a Dr. Fate movie much later on in the DCEU Redux, but I think it would be fun to have Dr. Fate earlier on to introduce the more magical aspect of the DC universe. It would run for 4 seasons on FX, and the villains of each season would be Mordru for Season 1, Black Alice for Season 2, Wotan for Season 3, and Mr. Who for Season 4. Smaller villains like Psycho Pirate, Anti-Fate, and Demons 3 would also be featured. Legacy characters like Rick Tyler, Crispus Allen, Hector Hall, Sandy Hawkins, Al Rothstein, Peter Cross, Jack Knight, Michael Holt, Yolanda Montez, and Dinah Lance would appear sporadically throughout the series, as themselves and in costume as well. The showrunner would be Lauren Schmidt, who is the current showrunner for The Witcher. Due to the level of magic and fantasy, I think she would be a very good fit for Dr. Fate. That's it for Phase 1. Next video, I'll be casting, so stay tuned.